Just called to let you know.
Let you know.
Do you know that song or not?
No.
It's beyond. It's Neil Diamond. It's a little bit before your time.
I think so.
Yes. Do you know Sweet Caroline, that song?
Yeah.
He also did Sweet Caroline.
I didn't like that song.
I figured you wouldn't. Today we're on with Shawn Opunui. And Shawn Opunui,
He's a splendid chap.
he is. He's a former NBA basketball player.
Really?
Yes, he made it to the NBA. And I spoke to him and he told me in the most casual of ways that his parents had him when they were 13 years old. And it knocked me off my socks. So we're going to talk to him about being raised pretty much by yourself. And we're going to do that on A Wonderful Chaos. And Bambos, we're going to do that on A Wonderful Chaos. And Bambos,
Yes.
we are going to do that
Absolutely, Andy.
on
I believe you.
A Wonderful Chaos.
We never get bored of this tune, do we?
No, we never get bored of it.
Never.
But speaking of getting bored of certain things, Ronnie is got quite a following, and every day you miss an episode, I think the seat next to me is like in jeopardy.
You mean yours? I think you think too much.
No, I don't. No, certainly not. I haven't been thinking that. Ronnie, so 2 times we've done 100 and some odd 3 shows.
Yeah.
And from those 103 shows, we've only had it 3 times that I know of where the guest hasn't shown up.
And Ronnie was there.
2 of those 3 times. And we didn't know that until literally seconds before it all transpired. So she was pretty good on her feet, actually.
Yeah.
I was
I watched a little bit this morning. I want to finish it tomorrow.
I was impressed. Yeah. So that's been really nice to celebrate a little bit of the can we be together and not have a specific theme we need to talk about or anything. And it's really been sweet.
Wouldn't it be weird if the 3 of us were on the couch?
Yeah.
That would
We'll bring her on.
That would be fun.
She might even join us today. We might have our first live studio audience. How is it for you now? You're getting work again. You're gainfully employed.
Yeah, it comes at a really weird time, actually, because as you know, I've been doing the workshop from Peter Kooning, the Illusion of Money.
Yeah.
And I've been making all these discoveries and uncovering beliefs and stories that I have about finances.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where I see the stories and I don't know if I can, from a very clean space, say those stories don't own me, but to the best of my ability, as far as I can see, I feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
And through that relaxation, I really don't know if there was a snowball effect, but I've been a full-time photographer again without the corporate events.
Yeah. Isn't it great? Yeah, I think I find it interesting when your story was that if I celebrate the success, then people won't be there to help me anymore. Like that was when you said that to me, that hit me really deeply.
I always believed actually that I should be failing all the time so that people would want to support that energy. So in a way, I was a little bit manipulative.
Well, yeah, but not intentional, I don't think.
Well, I like to use that word just to...
Yeah, okay. Just because you like to use those words. And and out of curiosity, where do you think that came from?
Probably my first year as a photographer. And I haven't traced it back before that point. But
it wasn't like kind of being a drug addict. That was a behavior that you saw. The more destitute you are, the more helpful people would be, or some crazy thing like that.
No one was helpful. And in fact, everyone wanted to keep away from me.
I can imagine. You would have been the guy that if I saw you, I'd go the other side of the street.
Andy, you probably would.
Oh, for sure. I have no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. Wow. So
how are you?
I'm really good. I cleaned the windows of the building today, so
I like your hair.
that's pretty good. If I clean windows, that means I'm in a good state. I This is the end of second week of the book in the public. I see it's still on the top 10 in the Netherlands, which is cool. I also see that The Last Letter is also on the top 10 of the Netherlands for the English books, self-help books. So people that bought The Wounded Healer are also buying The Last Letter right now, which I thought was very sweet. So I've been really grateful for that. And I'm loving the And It's Fucking Great group. Like every day I get a smile on my face. Just how cool is it? I think there's between 30 and 40 posts a day of people celebrating things that are just not easy for them to make peace with. And how cool is that?
Yeah. I actually used it today during the photo shoot with my the first client of the day. She said, I always look insecure in photographs. I've never had a good picture of myself. And I said to her, can you say that again? I look insecure in my images and it's fucking great. And like every time she had a block, and it's fucking great. And she kept on
you can see her release.
Opening up. Yeah. So now she left with the feeling of, oh, I'm going to have a problem picking pictures.
Oh, nice.
So it wasn't the hair. It was really her embracing and laughing at it.
I love it. One thing I've seen with the And It's Fucking Great hashtag thing is that I've noticed that, like Mariana, I don't know if you saw, she posted something beautiful today. It was one post to the next post to the next post. So I did a radio show that'll be on Tuesday. And the person said to me, okay, so I'm going to reclaim something. They said, I'm not happy with how I look, and it's fucking great. And then they said, well, what do I do when I'm not feeling like I'm doing this right? And I said, how about saying, I don't feel like I'm doing this right, and it's fucking great. And then she just started to laugh because she saw that the idea of judging the other thing was the freedom that she could get. And there was this sort of, what I've noticed is that it continues further and further. And it's not the one statement, it's the judgment of the fact that you're not even capable of making peace with that statement. All of it is of course to be celebrated. So I found that really sweet and to see it evolving.
Thank you.
Only question I'm not exactly sure of at the moment is the private or public. We've kept it as a public group, especially following from our kind of the man who really was the brainchild behind it was Bolalang. And I really felt like his vision was to make it a public arena. And I've noticed that some people, because it's public, are having a hard time publishing. So I'm trying to think about how to address that.
Well,
now.
Think about it now. If people need it to be private, then it's not fucking great.
That's what Bolalang would suggest. I'd love to talk about it. We can talk about it on or off air at some point, but I'd like to think about there's an anonymous publishing so that people who might have friends don't want them necessarily to see certain things. Like, I hate my manager and it's fucking great. Like, that might not be the best thing to state on the open public thing. So getting to our guest, Shawn Opunui. Shawn came through a mutual friend who was also on the show, who also was the editor of both books, Stephen Palmer. We did a show with him as My Dad is a Narcissist. He came up with that title, not me. And that's me vibrating.
I know.
Yeah. Their mutual friend, they're doing a basketball website together that teaches people how to play basketball well. And I got in contact with Shawn, and Stephen said, do me a favor, have a talk with my friend Shawn. And I talked to Shawn, and then I said, so Shawn, tell me a bit about yourself. And then Shawn just says, oh, yeah, well, I was born and raised in Hawaii. And yeah, my parents had me when they were 13 years old. And then he continued on for like 3 minutes. But once he said, my parents had me when they were 13 years old, like my whole brain froze. Like anything he said after that was just like a murmur. It's just like, and then I thought, hold on. Your parents had you when they were 13 years old? And then my brain couldn't reconcile what would that life look like. And I also had the feeling for Shawn, it was so normal that he didn't actually think it was anything strange because he was raised in it. It was just normal for him. And I was sitting in awe, like, how is it that, you remember going to your parents' high school graduation? Like, on what planet is that? I didn't have. So
If they graduated.
they graduated high school. That's what, at least, but we'll get into that with him. So with that, I just wanted to have him on and just discuss how it felt. And he really spent a lot of time kind of raising himself on the beach. And I thought, what an incredible life. And he took that and he found the thing, as we've seen in life, the thing he was damn good at, which was basketball. He made it, played college basketball, and then finally eventually made it into the NBA, which is miraculous, because so few people make it into the NBA. So I thought that would be cool to bring him on to discuss this.
Okay, let's bring him on.
Here he is. Hello.
Hey guys.
You're one of these people, and there's a lot of you, by the way, that come kicking and screaming onto the show. Like, I'll ask him one time, say, will you be on the show? And they say, let me think about it. Then the second time, they're like, oh, I guess. And then the third time, it's almost like it's hard to say no anymore.
Anytime I can steal time with you, Andy, I'm going to take advantage of it. It's a blessing for me.
Thank you, brother. Tell me, when you hear me share how I experience you telling me this story, what happens for you when you hear me describe that?
I was laughing. I guess I'm just full of joy with it now. I bore that burden for so long and finally was able to let all that shit go.
Yeah.
And literally, it is fucking great. It's fucking great.
But I mean, like, I'm curious, at what time or what point in your life did you realize that your parents were such an almost so close to your age, it was sort of almost, it was strange?
It still happens. It's just in daily conversations with my parents. It's fun to, it's a different paradigm. I find myself not sure what to call them. Do I call them mom and dad? Do I call them by their first names? At this point, it's fun. It's a great blessing. I have friends that I get to grow up with since childhood. I guess how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, and when you take us back to, because at some point when you were young, you must have thought to yourself, there's something that's not similar to the other friends around me.
That didn't happen until I was older. I think once I was on the mainland, until I was at a friend's house, and I saw like a connective family unit and the connective parents, and it was like, oh, that's what the other side looks at. But with all due respect to my parents, I mean, they did the best they absolutely knew how to do at all fucking times. Yeah. And there's nothing but love for them at that.
Yeah. This isn't to trash them. It's more like to understand your life.
You mentioned Steve Palmer. He always uses the phrase, the water in which we swim, the water in which we swim. And it was just water which I was just swimming, trying to stay afloat. I didn't realize anything until it was probably teenagers, probably about 15, 16.
It's 15 or 16, you realize something might be a little bit different.
Yeah. And then it punched me in the face when I had my first child. And then it was, okay.
Like what happened then?
My whole paradigm changed. As soon as I had my first child, Mia, I remember, just holding her for the first time and saying, I'm going to be the greatest parent in the world. And I know the blueprint what not to do. And now I get to kind of break this barrier and start over and start a whole new route for her and her kids.
But in a way, you didn't have a model to base it on. In some ways, it wasn't like you could say, oh, I know how my parents did it, so I'm just going to do it that way. You had to figure out how to do it yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's helped my parenting now. I have 3 kids now. My daughter I spoke of is now 14, and I have twins that are 11. And we communicate to each other like friends and companions and not dad. And I still play that role, but in the role they want me to play it in. And so it helps me just kind of break that paradigm shift that unfortunately my culture is known for. And I get to start fresh.
How is it to look at your 14-year-old daughter and think to yourself that she is the age that your parents were?
Oh, it's nuts. It's nuts. My 11-year-old twin just got asked out on her first date 2 days ago. And so it's funny you say that, because that paradigm for me kind of hit me like, oh shit, like at this point they could have a child. At this point my process could start all over again.
Yeah. How do you withhold that? Because I think a lot of people get so anxious from, I'm not. So my mom, like, she had two rules. It was no drunk driving and you use a condom, right? Those are the two rules in the house, and those were
That's
like
smart.
sacrosanct. No drunk driving. It's like two things. One, you're going to either kill yourself, or two, you're going to be stuck with something potentially the rest of your life you don't want. Those were her rules.
Right.
And so I could imagine, and I know that came a lot from obviously not wanting to lose me and having some people in her environment that also had drunk driving, deaths around, and the fact that she got the first. My eldest brother was an unintended birth, and she didn't want me to be in the same situation.
Andy, can I just pause really fast? I'm gonna steal some strength from you because I know your story. I mean, and you can just say your mom's rule was no drunk driving.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, you're fucking strong.
I never made that connection.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. When she died, I really lost the only person in my life I felt that I could rely on.
And it was one of those rules.
Yeah. And it was one of those rules. No. I remember in the autopsy it was kind of shitty because after she died, since she was killed by this woman who then drove away, it was a hit and run and there was a big court case. And I remember going into the defense attorney at the time. And because the woman who killed my mom had an injunction put on me because she said I was stalking her.
Oh,
So
wow.
not only was it the shit of the trial, but I also had someone knock on my door, a lawyer say, "Hey, we're putting some kind of injunction on you," right? Which I kind of thought was, after you've lost everything that meant something to you, something like that means nothing to you. You just kind of laugh because I didn't know the woman or anything about her. But when I went in, there was they didn't take so many precautions, and there were all the autopsy pictures of my mom on the table. So it was like, so you walk in and you're looking, and then you see the sort of the remnants of the thing you loved, just on the table. They moved it quickly. Obviously, at some point they saw someone probably was given a speaking to afterwards. But I remember them talking that they had to, like, because they had to make sure my mom wasn't drunk, because then if she were drunk, then and the only way they could do that, I heard, was by basically taking a syringe and sort of taking fluid out of her eye, because in some way wasn't aware of that. But those are all the things that you hear as a young adult, and you're trying to integrate that when emotionally you're having a hard time feeling anything. So yeah.
Fuck, I love you, man.
Yeah. Love you too, man. Yeah. Yeah. So getting back to you. Tell us about, like, how it was to be like you as a kid. Like, go back and let us kind of help us understand, how does that life look? And also the background of it, because I think I said you were in Hawaii, but I don't know, like if there's a cultural thing that also I am not never really understood, that it might even be kind of normal to be a child of a 13-year-old, because I've never been in an environment where that would even be halfway normal.
I think in that cultural situation, um, we grew up in the lower poverty states, and so in that kind of a situation, um, from the gate, it's eat or be eaten type of world. It's spend for yourself from the get go. So
Yeah.
um, I locked myself up in a 94-foot area of that basketball court, and I ran. I mentally ran. I emotionally ran. I physically ran, and just lived there until I could leave. And that was my space. So when you ask the question, how what I had to mentally, emotionally, physically check out into that 94-foot box just to not be eaten.
And what age were you when that box became your home?
Four.
4.
Four.
At 4, you began playing basketball.
At four, yeah, yeah, at four. And then I wouldn't. I mean, it was my safety net. I didn't want to leave my safety net. It was the only place where those dangers couldn't touch me. It was. I mean, I'm Polynesian. We all are supposed to play football. We're all supposed to be big, and I'm barely 160 pounds, so football wasn't my gig. So that 94-foot box, no one was there.
Wow. It reminds me, without the torturous part of it, of like when I was good in track. It was the first time I felt like I belonged to anything, or that I actually had any comfort or strength or self-assurance, self-confidence.
That's interesting you say that. That was your strength, that track.
Yeah.
And then forgive me if I keep pulling back, but when your story touched me so much, you received your news within that safety and that strength that you just described right there. That's fucking rad.
Yeah. And when
keep going, Andy.
I was going to say, and when I did the trip, obviously I went back to the same place where it happened, and I didn't. Now if I go back, it's really emotional, but I didn't have any inkling that allowing myself to go back and sort of not putting any barriers up, how hard it would be to be there again. And to be there kind of alone in a way. In this, I was physically alone, but it was like there was nothing that had changed in that whole area that would have made it feel any different. It wasn't like I could have looked at someone and said, "Oh, it's so different." It was really the exact same place. So to have to go back into that feeling again was overwhelming. Actually, it was really. I had to kind of go, because there was also people on the track field running and doing their thing. And when I lost it, I kind of had to go to a shelter, because I thought, they don't know what's going on, and they just see some crazy men kind of bawling on the middle of the field. Which wouldn't have been a big problem, but yeah.
That's most of my day, I think. That was just some crazy dreaded man just bawling about something.
Yeah. How is that for you? Because in a way, that's when I feel most alive. And I'm wondering, on your case, how do you feel in there?
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I want nothing more than just to connect on these levels and be vulnerable and share back and forth.
Yeah.
I love it.
Mm.
I'm surrounded by good people who share the same thoughts. I have, you mentioned Steve Palmer. His wife is one of the greatest entrepreneurs I've ever met. I get to her in my circle. I have people like you. I'm very blessed where I'm at.
I'm looking at Bambos. I would think you'd have a lot to ask or say or share or be with.
I'm completely exhausted.
Oh, I can see. Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the screen, and I'm like, oh, he's connected. Oh, they're connecting. Okay, so then
Oh, that's where you are.
then I'm just allowing myself to feel the tiredness and trying to keep my eyes open.
Yeah. Bombos went 0 to 100 with this work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. So when
And
you go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm grateful. I love just being in your presence and just feeling and
Yeah.
it's empowering for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I was really, you saw. I think it's kind of funny because, like I mentioned on the start of the show, when we told this, when we were speaking, and you gave me that detail, and you kept talking, and I kept pulling you back to that detail, and you kept like thinking, I don't, you didn't, you were like, yeah, we've already gotten past that, Andy, and I kept saying, Shawn, they were 13 fucking years old. I think I said it to you like how does that not impact you,
It impacted me growing up to what I didn't want to do. I had my own kind of rules that I established in my brain, especially in that aspect of this is not what I'm going to do. This is not how I'm going to start my little family. This is not what I'm going to put him into. So it impacted me, I think, as a kid in a negative way, but it didn't because it pushed me into an area that I fell in love with and it pushed me into what my core beliefs are now. And so it was such a positive thing that I would never be in this situation if my core beliefs had I not been blessed for that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's the key of life, is that it's like, the clam, where you have the tension, which is that dirt that comes in, then it's turned into the pearl.
Right.
Like that's the journey. And some people are able to make it into a pearl, and some people it just stays that irritant their entire lives.
It's absolutely the biggest pearl for me.
Yeah.
To have had that experience and to have that trial, I guess, or just that opportunity to say, okay, I know where I'm going.
When you started to, the one thing we'll talk about a lot on the show in general is like limiting beliefs and things that you would have had to overcome in order to make more and more peace. There's always been another thing you can make peace with. Is there anything you'd say in your life you're like, oh, I had to make peace with something in order to like get to the next level, like in sports or anything in that area?
Yeah, it's loneliness.
Mm.
As it's been something I've grew up with. It's just been with my whole life, and it's still something I had to make peace with in the basketball world. I had to make peace with now as an adult, turning 40 without a partner. I thought that would be such a huge blow to me in the sense. And I constantly have to accept and just fucking I write on my mirror. I'm alone. It's fucking great. It's constantly something I have to overcome. So it's clearly something that the universe wanted me to learn from a young age is loneliness.
Yeah. And because I think we discussed it once, even when you went to the NBA, you said you also felt quite lonely there, as far as I can remember.
It's a tough world. That basketball world is a tough world. If I may speak just from my heart, I think it's a very narcissistic world. It's about me and look at me and it's a world I have trouble living in. It's the energy it really hurts, and so it was an alone type of a situation. I didn't want to go out with teammates. I didn't want to go live that lifestyle. I stayed in my room. It was safe.
Wow. And it's interesting because that's followed you. Sounds like a if you say your red thread of your life, then
Right.
there is a degree to which it's always, and I would say in my own life that would be the same red thread.
Same here.
Yeah.
I finally, I think now at the age of 40, have embraced all of it.
Mm.
Have embraced all of the loneliness, and love the loneliness.
Yeah.
In its healthy standpoints, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the, in a weird way, making, when I was in Vienna before I came to Amsterdam, I couldn't like leave a moment of my time not on the phone. Like I was constantly on the phone, and then every night there was something arranged, just because the silence was just too much. Even the weekends. So I had every night. Monday night was or Sunday night was movie night. Monday night was
Right.
squash. Tuesday night was dinner with it. It was like literally my life was programmed out, and that was all to escape the quiet.
Andy, I still run in that manner. I absolutely still run in that manner.
Yeah.
God blessed me with really good physical abilities, and I'll work out 6-8 hours a day. I still run from that loneliness in that manner.
Yeah. At least you're moving in a direction which isn't necessarily harmful. I don't hear.
No, I love it. I think it's great. It's so meditative.
Yeah. And in the end, I think it all kind of comes back to death, because on one level, the quiet is the ultimate quiet, which is just we're not here at all. Or at least in the
you find that inner peace in that point.
Yeah.
And I struggled since I was a kid to find inner peace because I was scared of loneliness.
Yeah.
And I put up with a lot of shit in my life because I was scared of loneliness.
Yeah.
Karina Palmer, one of my best friends, called me out a couple weeks ago. And she said, "You have a hard time letting go."
Mm.
And I never could dial in until it was all based around being alone.
Yeah.
I didn't want to let go because I didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Now I fucking love it.
Yeah. I always like to think, especially like with Ronnie, we're both alone and yet we're together.
Right.
Yeah.
I love your relationship in its codependency state. It is, you nail it. It's you're alone but you're together. You're alone but you're together. And even in the books that I'm reading, as you've gone across the country and you finally meet up with her in Maine, you can, 2 months, you haven't seen each other in 2 months, and right away it's, bam, now we're together just instantly.
Well, it took a half a day because she needed to go through the finances.
That's right.
But
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. And then you had to rush to a meeting. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. But you're right. It's so hard to find someone that doesn't think that you're the thing that's going to make them happy.
It was hard for me to believe that myself. That I couldn't make myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
Do you also have it as you're moving through life and now you're connected to loneliness that you can recognize it in others, and then like I kind of use that, seeing it in others. Oh, apparently I'm not alone. And that makes me feel connected.
If I may, you posted something on that group site of It's Fucking Great, and it was connected to me instantly. So yes, absolutely. I've never had a conversation with you ever, but you posted what you did on that site, and immediately it was an instant, for me at least. Okay, he is with me. He knows what I'm going through, and I know what he's going through. And it was thank you for sharing because it hit me.
What did I share precisely? Because I shared quite a few things.
Yeah, I think it was the very first one you put out there was, I'm never going to find a woman who's going to love and appreciate. It's not the exact, but it's kind of a good paraphrase. And I felt it like, oh yeah, I get it. Anyway, thank you for sharing because that touched me in every way. See, Andy, I cry too fucking much, right?
Yeah, like self-judgment. Can you go to the mirror and read the first sentence of the new book, please?
I know. I don't even care.
Nor should you. Yeah, I try to explain to people that are coming on the show because they don't. A lot of guests won't necessarily see it ahead of time, and I always try to explain. There's a good chance that we'll cry while you're on the show, so just be okay with whatever shows up.
Right. That's what's great. It's such an open space.
Yeah. I read that chapter in the book to Ronnie in the first time that she was on. I since Ronnie hasn't been reading the books, I'm not even sure if she knows what's in them, right? Because she just doesn't. It's like how much of our lives are being revealed in your paperbacks. I'm almost happy she doesn't read them. Otherwise, there's going to be some risk mitigation going on.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful.
So I read the chapter to her, and that really put me in tears. Yeah.
It sounded to me that when you were sharing, like when I'm trying to think of a question, I'm looking at myself in my own life because I do see the commonality and how I've used parts of my life as an identity or to be more than what I was, to cover up. And somehow when Andy announced you as being as the MB, I'm like, oh, so we have a celebrity. And then getting to know you in this last 37 minutes, I realized that possibly was the time in your life where you actually felt maybe even disconnect from yourself.
Absolutely. I almost shut that part of my life out a little bit just to help myself move forward because it was something I had to. It wasn't a part of me. I used it as a means to an end, which is what it was there for. But yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that you stopped enjoying playing basketball?
Yes, immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately. Yeah.
And before that, you were really passionate, I guess.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Fuck.
Absolutely loved it.
So what became the thing that you were working towards while being in that space?
Getting away from where I was at. I needed to leave that. I needed to leave my current family situation. I needed to leave all of that taking energy. I needed to leave. And in that environment where you're in that lower poverty level, you don't have an option. So that was my option.
So you really, basketball was your escape?
Yeah, absolutely.
You mean the ticket out?
Yeah.
It was my real ticket out, and I'm grateful for it. But it kind of all, had I not had parents who had me at that age, I wouldn't have found that 94-foot box to hide in for most of my life. Had I not found that 94-foot box, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Finally embracing my loneliness and have an opportunity with 3 of my own kids and 3 more Hanai kids to shower with love and yeah.
I remember when my dad kicked me out of the house and said, "You're dead," and out of the will, and he did the whole number on me. It was I then my life became, how do I fend for myself? There was fear and there was anxiety. How am I going to do this? And it was quite interesting because I noticed that as I got older, I was deeply grateful that he created that tension, because it forced me to make decisions I wouldn't have otherwise made. There was
That
no
comfort zone.
Yeah. The comfort zone was gone. And thankfully his influence was also gone, which was doubly so. It was like I told him as before he died that the greatest gift he ever gave me was the gift of, telling me that I was dead to him.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My
And
father never told me I was dead. He said, we can't afford to send you to college. We can't afford to do anything. You got to make your own way. And I was at 10 years old. 10 years old, like, okay, I got that shit. I got it handled.
At 10 years old, that's what you were being told.
I'm so grateful it wasn't when I was 18. I'm so grateful it was 10 and I had all that time to mentally grasp and take it. I mean, I can't imagine being a dad telling that to my 11-year-old. So the strength that took my dad to even say that is a whole nother level of just.
Yeah.
I mean, I view that at first. I view that as a big like. Now it's holy cow! How can you be so in tune to your reality and have the strength and love to tell your son, "I don't." So here, like, I viewed it as the ultimate gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I always said that my dad could have always said to me, Andy, whatever support, I can't give any support to you because I don't agree with how you're living, but I love you. Like
Right.
that would have been what I would have loved for my dad to have done if he had the social emotional capacity to do that. Yeah. But he didn't. And actually, I think I was better off because of it, because that meant that I also could, for the first time in my life, create my life and not satisfy another person's idea of what my life should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing you said which hit me was, I also know that when I left in the fear and anxiety of my own trying to take care of myself, I got good in business, and I got good in business a bit to escape. So if I do well in business, that means I'm independent and I don't need anybody. And towards the end of that journey, I didn't like who I'd become. So there was like, and I remember for 2 years just not liking myself, but not feeling like I had an alternative. And I always found a reason not to take the other two. Oh, I'm not going to be as free at another company. Oh, I'm not going to make as much money. I'm not going to have as much trust because people know me. So there's always 20 excuses why I didn't go to another place. And then I realized that there's that moment when you just look in the mirror and you say, okay, is this the life I want to really be living? And then I met my mentor Case, right? And that was the big life do-over. But as you spoke about it, when I went from Vienna, where I was living then, to Amsterdam, I went from having contact 24/7 to having virtually no contact outside of my contact with Case for about 10 years. And I always called it, I felt as if I was living like a monk, because it was like, it takes a long time to build a relationship with yourself.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Turns out I'm pretty cool. At least I think so.
Exactly.
What's being touched by, like, every time Andy shares a life story, I can see it's touching you deeply. and kind of wondering where you're connecting it to yourself, because I can kind of tune into that it's going into your experience.
I don't know how to explain it. I think there are there are probably three people in my that I can recall that I have had just an ability to connect with immediately. Two of them we've talked about already, Stephen Bruno Palmer and Andy. First time I just had an opportunity to talk with Andy, it was probably the first. I mean, it's fucking what Andy does. He's just open. He's immediately non-judgment. He's in the space right now, and he holds all the space you need him to. And then when I read his first book and got to talk and experience his story, I felt similarities in exactly how he was. I mean, he used his tracks as his safety net. I used my 94C. We use that as our out. We just talked about a mentor. You had your mentor that you felt like you were in this monk state for a while to accept your loneliness. And I can just say, yeah, I'm the same type of route. And so for me, it almost feels like Andy kind of set not a roadmap, but an idea to form my own roadmap to follow through.
Nice. I think I'm having the same, spending time with Andy. I have to say that I've taken a lot from him in terms of what you would call a roadmap: relationships, business, mindset, redefining what ambition is, or
Yes.
life purpose is, as he sometimes likes to joke about. The purpose of life is life.
Yes. Bambo, you said something earlier about how you're with finances. You're going through that. What really the importance of that finances? And immediately to my aspect, I'm connecting with that, saying, yeah, okay, learning that whole rewiring, really understanding what all of that is, and shaking off that preconceived notion of what we thought it was, or at least I thought it was.
I think what the three of us might, or at least what I can smile about and joyfully share right now is 2.5 months ago, I walked into a supermarket and I didn't have money on my bank account. So I had to put the food back on the shelf. And what I learned from Andy is, like, if I would do it differently, is like make a Facebook post about it, and it's fucking great.
Right.
Like just celebrate that as part of being fucking alive. And yeah,
That's so awesome.
and I can feel that. Like I didn't think I could, like the first
The first what?
the first 6 weeks after that happened, I was in pain. I couldn't embrace it. Like talking about it on a live show. So
We had a lot of tears that week on the show.
weeks.
So fun.
Yeah. So today that you are crying, also, I see the viewership is up, so it's good.
Yeah, we always notice that tears bring viewers. You know, as soon as the tears come out, all of a sudden.
But you know what it is? What I've been told is your tears help me feel my pain.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about the story that we share, but about allowing someone else who is witnessing to access themselves.
Yep.
You guys hold a lot of space for everyone. It's amazing.
That's the only way I could feel mine, by the way, for years. Sorry.
You keep rolling.
When my when I was called and told that my dad died, I was called like 3 a.m. Like the only rule I had with my brothers, if anyone dies, don't call me at 3 a.m. Wait till 6. Like I told them that on several occasions. I don't care who it is. They're going to be dead at 3 or they're going to be dead at 6. Don't call me at 3 a.m. So then the phone rings at 3. You know, I'm not worried about it because they know the rules. I'm not going to pick up at 3 a.m. because I know no one's going to call me at 3 because we've agreed no calling. And then the second phone call comes and the third phone call comes. I'm like, okay, now.
You leave your phone on?
It was early days. I think it was a physical line. I don't even think it was a mobile. So I picked up, and then I'm told by one of my brothers that my dad died, and then I shared that with Ronnie, and then because I was told it and I couldn't feel the pain. I heard the words, but I couldn't feel. So I tell Ronnie, and then she begins to cry. And then as she cries, then it's the first time I can begin to cry. It's almost like I needed her to show me how to feel that pain, because it was so hard to feel it. I needed somebody else to be an example for me, to lead me to create a safe zone. And I've seen in my life today that, when people use the word vulnerability, often I just want to puke, because I see vulnerability kind of is this obfuscation for, let me say what's on my mind, but not take responsibility for it. So let me tell you how I feel. Like whenever everyone says, let me tell you how I feel, I almost want to say, tell yourself how you feel. What's going on behind the feeling that you don't really want to share because it's so scary that you think that you might get hurt by me.
Right.
Like that's vulnerability. Everything else is the idea that I'm being vulnerable so that I can offload my shit on you and then have you take responsibility for the thing I don't really want to take responsibility for in my life. So what I've seen is that that vulnerability that goes to the, where is it touching me on a level where I don't feel safe anymore? Like that's very, very hard to make enough peace so that you can hold space there. It's just hard because in that space, you don't have any control. You can be hurt. And you have to be okay with being alone.
Exactly.
Because if you're not okay being alone, it's really hard to be vulnerable, because if you can't go to somebody else for the support, then you're really there only making peace with the fact you are alone, and it's okay. They don't see you, and it's okay. I was in a business meeting today with a father and a son and a few other business people. And in the middle of it, I saw the dynamic between the father and the son. And I did an intervention, right? Kind of try to celebrate the absurdity of the dynamic. And I saw that it wasn't welcomed. It was clear, but it wasn't like, let's not make it too transparent. And it felt sad, because on one level it was like, if we can't allow this to be seen and brought to the light and kind of laughed and loved, then it becomes an undercurrent of tension that really never gets resolved. And I saw, oh, well, I can try. And it always hurts a little bit when you try and you realize you're not being seen in the effort you're making. And that's okay, of course. Right. Yeah. Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Yeah.
I fucking see you, Andy.
I know you do. When you spoke, I cried when you explained me back to me. It was pretty intense to experience that. Thank you, brother. Yeah. And I can also understand why, with all that emotion, how hard is it to bring more people in your life? Right? At this point.
At this point.
Yeah.
I'm very much enjoying me.
Yeah. I would almost suggest, why would you want anyone else in your life? Because if they can't be with you there, then it's like you have to pretend that you're not that.
I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm out. Yeah.
Yeah.
It almost feels like you're that 10-year-old and Andy's giving you the thing that you needed back then.
Mm.
And I recognize that because that's sometimes how I experience Andy in my own life.
Yeah. His face is great, and you're exactly right. It is, my Steven, my best friend, and I talk about all the time. Our 10-year-old self gets stuck in this, and yeah, it's interesting you say that age. This is 10-year-old Shawn getting what I need from Andy.
I even think I said that when we did have an interaction with another party, and I said, why are you treating him like he's 30 or 40 years old? I think you remember that.
I remember that. Yeah.
I think you remember it so much because you wanted to wring my neck as well. By the way, at that moment, at some point.
You know, you went and punched me right in the dick. Pardon my bad mouth. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's language is permitted.
Okay, Andy, you went right and punched me right in the dick and said, "You want to get better? Here it is. Own up or get out." And
you left the room. You were You were so fucked off with me. You left the room. I didn't know if you're gonna come back.
You didn't punch it. Yes, that's why I say it's just you had that point. I had to say, okay, where am I going right now? Like, am I getting on or am I getting off?
Yeah. Can we love the kid, or are we going to pretend like that kid doesn't exist and then struggle against it our entire lives?
The fucking kid's rad. I think
the kid is rad.
I think he's rad.
Yeah. It took me a long time just to love that kid. And just fully just laugh at him, make fun of him, right? Just celebrate the hell out of him. And in some ways, when Bambo says, I'm together with Ronnie, so there are things which I don't do just to make sure that it isn't like, so that she doesn't feel too uncomfortable. But like that kid would feel really comfortable walking the streets of Amsterdam naked and just enjoying the fact that this whole life and thing is so absurd that everyone here doesn't know they're taking all of this shit way too seriously. Like there's a joy in that I'm like, okay, this won't be experienced while Ronnie's around because all of a sudden her finance group will not accept that level of crazy in her life.
Unless we do a photo shoot.
Or put a bag over my head.
A bag over your head and high socks.
But if I thank God I have no recognizable things like a tattoo or anything that can be brought back to me. Yeah. So yeah, it's been beautiful to be with you. And one of the things that the thing that I love most when I work with someone like you, and I use you and Bambos are very similar for me, is that you're so sensitive to bullshit that you are an incredible mirror for anyone, including for me. Because if you are triggered, I trust that there's something that you are seeing in me, triggered by me, not by what I say, but by me. That I trust there's something that you're seeing in me that I'm not necessarily in contact with in myself. Do you know how that works with really sensitive people? Intuitively, you don't trust someone. Right?
My energy radar is very good.
Yes. And so what I'm saying is maybe you haven't honed it, but I trust your energy radar when it comes to our interactions because I know, he's sensing something that basically I can learn from. Or what I've seen other people do is they blame people like you and Bambos a lot for how you behave because you're not giving them what they need from you. You both know that from your experiences, of course. So when people blame you, I laugh and think, oh shit, they didn't get the opportunity to learn and grow because they somehow weren't able to ask the question, what is it you see in me that you feel like I'm not necessarily connected to, or what's triggering you about my behavior?
Can you say that question again? That was money. Say that question again.
So the question is, what is it that I'm doing that's triggering you? Or what is it you see in me that you maybe I don't see in myself? So what's the question you're willing to ask that's uncomfortable?
I like that.
Because there's no agenda there. It's only, I'm assuming you're right. I'm giving in your cases, both of you, the agency to already say, I can say whatever I want because I don't hear anyone defending on the other end.
I love that.
Yeah, but people don't do that because they defend because they think, oh shit, I really don't want to know the answer. It's uncomfortable.
Or it's offensive. Yeah.
But I'll ask the two of you for all the feedback in the world. But you remember in the story in the book, fuck you and your fucking judgment, right? if someone already judges without any self-reflection, then I have very little time for feedback now. If someone is totally saying, hey, I have something to tell you, you made me uncomfortable, but I'm not going to take any responsibility for what it is that maybe was triggered in me that comes from my childhood. It doesn't matter me. It's only about you. I have so little time for that now in my life. Yeah.
Such a true statement. So little time.
So little time. We're over our hour, and I've got to put Bambos to bed.
Bambos has one more photo shoot.
Oh no, I'm really now scared because I have another message that came from Bolalang, and Bolalang, I sure as hell hope Bolalang is old enough to be my father. Now he's telling me that I'm gonna be his father as well.
Father.
Oh, I love it.
Bolalang, we need to get you a new profile picture.
Yes, we need to get you a new profile picture, Bolalang. Thank you, my friend.
Andy, I love the fuck out of you. Bambos, I love your energy and thank you for sharing it. I feel like this is very much a taking situation from me where I just got to take your strength and your energies, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you, man. Love you. So grateful you came on. Yeah. Really grateful to see you and have you here. Yeah.
Love you, boys.
Love you, man. Bye. He's going to have a good cry right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. I love that we get to have the guest on that's most connected and then you're tired. That's so great.
Well, actually tired and I could let go.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Tomorrow, by the way, we're on not tomorrow. It's Monday. Isn't that great? Oh, we have My Mom Was a Spy. How cool is that? 6:30, not 5. We started 6:30 on Monday. Peter Zeiderfeld, his mom basically picked up on German soldiers during World War II, took them away, and then they were shot and killed. And she did that regularly. And she basically got a special recognition. I took care of her for many years before she died. And every time I showed up, it never left her. There was a bullet that was in the house, in the window, and she never would get the window replaced because she always wanted to be reminded that the Germans were always nearby. And I asked him to come on so we could just discuss her story, a little bit how it was. I came from Austria, and whenever I spoke Dutch, I always spoke with a little bit of a German accent, and I could see she always jumped up. So it was a very incredible life, and I'm looking forward to discussing that with her. And we're going to do that on A Wonderful Chaos.
Apparently so.
We hopefully. And I'll make sure Bambos gets more sleep before the next show. Bye.